Good evening and welcome to the Gazette's 2021 Mayoral Forum. I'm Gazette Executive Editor Zack Kucharski. I'm joined tonight with Insight Editor and columnist Todd Dorman. Tonight, we're going to spend the next 90 minutes with the four candidates seeking the Cedar Rapids mayor seat in the November 2nd election. Seeking the seat are Amara Andrews, Myra Bradwell, incumbent and current Cedar Rapids Mayor Brad Hart, and Tiffany O'Donnell. Welcome to each of you, and thank you for taking part in tonight's forum. A couple reminders on the process. We'll address the format, but a reminder of the election process. If a candidate receives 50% of the overall vote in the November 2nd election, they win their seat outright. If no candidate reaches that threshold, the top two vote getters advance to a runoff election that will occur November 30th. Early voting for the mayoral race begins October 13th in person at the auditor's office or the Lynn County satellite office at the Lindale Mall. And in changes to the state law, you must request an absentee ballot be mailed to you no later than October 18th. For more details about tonight's format, candidates will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement. We'll begin in alphabetical order of last name, starting with Amara, because her last name is Andrews. Then we'll rotate who goes first with each question throughout the evening. Timekeeping will be done by me. It's a late improvisation to the process. And so the candidates in the first 5 rounds after the opening statement will answer questions that are all the same. In the 6th rotation, we will ask a unique question to each of them. Then we will move to a lightning round for 4 rounds in which they'll have a minute to provide a response to a thumbs up or a thumbs down question. We're going old school tonight, so thumbs up means they agree, thumbs down means they disagree, and then we'll ask them to explain their answer. After that, we'll have another series of questions coming from our audience. We've asked for questions in advance, but you can also use the chat to ask additional questions. In this section, we'll go with 1 minute per answer. We're happy so many people to have elected to join us tonight. There are over 300, and we anticipate that there'll be more questions than we can get to tonight, but thank you in advance. To wrap up the evening in the format, we'll give each candidate a minute to make closing remarks. With that, it's time to begin with opening statements. Amara, I turn it to you.
Thank you so much, Zach, and thank you, Todd, for this forum. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Amara Andrews, I am running for mayor because the people of Cedar Rapids want change. As I'm on the campaign trail, that is what I hear most consistently, that it's time for change. And I will bring new vision and new leadership to Cedar Rapids, one that puts people first. I've lived in a number of places and I have work experience that is needed to get the job done. As many of you know, I've been a school teacher and a lawyer. I've worked in the nonprofit sector. I've helped entrepreneurs start and grow their companies. And for many years, I've worked in business development and communications. I've lived in a number of cities around the country, both large urban centers and small towns. And it's with this perspective that I can really see the potential in Cedar Rapids. We live in an amazing city. We've got trees, although we've lost quite a few, beautiful waterways. We have a nonprofit sector, a devoted and thriving nonprofit sector. We have a uniquely Midwestern entrepreneurial ecosystem. This is a great place with robust trades. This should be a destination city for workers and for families. And I have a vision to lead us there with relatively low cost of living and our strengthened job pool. We can get there. My husband and I are not from here. We're not from Cedar Rapids. We've chosen to make Cedar Rapids our home. I work right downtown in a homegrown company, and my husband has started a business in the corridor. We've been in the Midwest for almost 15 years, and we're here to stay. So with my leadership skills, I believe, oh, shoot, I'm over?
You're over. The clock is working.
Okay, so well, I'll save the rest for my closing statement.
There you go. Myra, we will turn it to you for your 2 minute opening statement.
It's mine. Well, okay. Well, listen, I have lived in Iowa all my life, and I consider myself a Cedar Rapidian. I worked at the same factory for 46 years, and as everybody knows, I've made other attempts to try to make a difference. I don't feel that this community is growing. I think it's become very stagnant. I've listened and talked to a lot of people in the building trades. We have a lot of companies that are moving outside of Cedar Rapids because they don't feel they're being treated fairly. And I agree with that. They talk about it being an inexpensive place to live. I totally disagree with that. As I said at the other forum, my son has a $650,000 home here. His taxes are $11,000 a year. My daughter lives in a $650,000 house in Nashville. Her taxes are $2,000 a year. Then on top of that, they get 2 years of community college free if they have good grades and good attendance. So I don't think we're doing enough with people in Cedar Rapids and Iowa. I mean, as you know, I was a candidate for governor too, and won my failed attempts. But I think I'm the best candidate out here today because I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a millionaire. I'm a common person that has done it. I've worked, I have a business education, I've educated myself, and I think that we need a robust change, and we got to help the companies that are here, and we got to do everything we can to have more business here for employment for people, because as I said before, my 3 topics are jobs, jobs, and jobs. But one of the things I really feel that Cedar Rapids is missing now is respect. We do not have respect for people and ourselves. I mean, when I let a person go in a car ahead of me, I let him in. I bet 1 out of 20 will wave, saying thank you. We should be a friendly community. Should be 20 out of 20. So,
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Myra. Brad?
Good evening. I'm Mayor Brad Hart. I've lived in Cedar Rapids for more than 31 years now. During that time, I've tried to serve the community in a variety of ways the last almost 4 years as your mayor. I believe my 40 years of training as an analytical problem solver and my service to the community, helping to lead almost a dozen organizations or causes, make me uniquely qualified to serve as mayor. And now I've helped lead Cedar Rapids through a pandemic and a recovery from a derecho. Despite those 2 setbacks, Cedar Rapids has shown how strong it is and how resilient it is. So far, under my leadership as mayor, we've made important investments and have advanced key sections of our flood control system. We've increased our housing options, including the number of affordable units. We've repaired miles of our streets. We've issued building permits totaling more than $1 billion in the last 3 fiscal years, and those are growing our tax base and creating new high-paying jobs. We've developed plans to help employers and employees meet workforce needs through our Gateways for Growth, Urban Dreams, and more. We've developed a framework to address the Sept task force initiatives and have instituted a new initiative to further reduce crime, violent crime. We worked with the community, members of the communities, including ASJ and the police department, to help make our city safer. We committed funds to the patch program to help our neighbors complete repairs to their homes from the derecho. We are finishing up a comprehensive plan to restore our tree canopy, relief CR. And this week, we adopted a community climate action plan. So I'm running for re-election because there's more to do to recover from the derecho and the pandemic, but we'll keep our taxes in line, repair our streets, build our housing, develop more amenities, especially around the river, and make this a home for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Tiffany, we'll turn that to you. Tiffany, you're on mute.
Thanks. I have 2 really simple reasons for running for mayor, and their names are Devin and Lucci. These are my daughters. I'm a lifelong Iowan. My husband, Michael's a 5th generation Cedar Rapidian, and we moved back home from Dallas in January 2001. We encouraged our kids to chase their dreams wherever that may be, while hoping that someday they'd come home like we did. But we started to see a troubling trend, and many of our kids weren't coming back, and worse yet, their parents or friends were following them. So did you know Lynn County, by the way, is among the top 3 sources for new Des Moines residents? I just learned that this week. If our kids want to live somewhere else, who's going to want to live here? I'm concerned that it starts with leadership, and a lack of leadership is setting us back, that we're simply okay with being okay. We need to expect more for our future. I'm tired of watching the cities around us pass us by. We need to grab onto the momentum. I'm going to be a mayor who understands the importance of being out in front and telling our story. I'm a leader who brings optimism and energy and insists that Cedar Rapids is a welcoming place full of opportunity for everyone. I'll cultivate relationships locally, regionally, and in Des Moines. We can't have articles like we saw just this past summer about the city and county not communicating, about the city missing out on state funding because we aren't plugged in just right. I'm a leader who says we can do better here. It's time we fix and finish what's broken. It means increasing focus on our deteriorating roads, ensure every derecho victim has the support to finally recover, and we need to speed up our flood protection on both sides of the river. It's about retaining existing people and businesses while recruiting the workforce and businesses of the future. We need to be intentional about who's staying here and strategically recruiting new people in business. We drive and thrive for a better quality of life. We need a vibrant downtown that has diverse housing, shops, as well as bars and restaurants, all surrounded by self-sustaining neighborhoods, which I've been talking about since the beginning, supported in our climate action plan. And most basic needs are within a 15-minute walk. That's our future. All of this next to a river that unites us. This is a nonpartisan position. I'm committed to keeping it that way. I'm supported and endorsed by Democrats, Republicans, and independents. My money comes from individuals, not corporations, PACs, or parties. I'm not trying to get on TV, been there, done that, or run for another office. I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere else. It's my home. I'm Tiffany O'Donnell. I believe in Cedar Rapids, and I humbly ask for your vote November 2nd.
Okay, thank you, Tiffany. I will turn it to Todd for the first question. 2 minutes in this round for responses. Todd, you're on mute.
I was so afraid I was going to do that. What are your ideas for providing more affordable housing in the city for homeowners and renters? And I think Myra is our first responder.
Myra, me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, listen, we do need a lot more affordable housing, and derecho is something I've never seen in my 65 years of being alive in here. I went downtown. I talked to all the homeless people. They'd love to have something affordable. I think that in Cedar Rapids, there's affordable housing at the low income. I know a lot of the landlords are struggling because supposedly the government was supposed to help these lower income, which I'm all behind, to pay their rent. Well, they haven't paid that rent. They put $42 million earmarked it away to pay landlords, and yet they've only put out $2 million of that. And by the way, we'll tell you, $5 million of that $42 million has become missing. So where did that go? But if you went downtown and really talked to some of these homeless people, your heart would hurt because these people are struggling. They're just trying to get by. They're normal people. They may have had difficulties in their life. We all do. Some are worse than others. But we need to do a lot more. We were talking about that today, about how we could help those people and get them even working to build tiny homes, to put them somewhere so they could live. People have a right to dignity. And as I said earlier, we need to learn to respect each other. And so if you give somebody a place to live, it's like that movie Dave. You give a person a job, they're pretty happy. Everybody works on Monday. That's what Dave said. We have a lot of people in the city that are not working. I don't think that's a success. I think that's a huge failure. And so, listen, people need a little dignity.
Thank you, Mary Hart.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we have increased our affordable housing units in Cedar Rapids over the last several years. Certainly the derecho impacted some of the apartments that were providing affordable housing, and some of those are being rebuilt. A couple of them aren't. You just recently heard that 5 projects in Cedar Rapids are getting some grants from the state for affordable and workforce housing. 5 projects. There were more that applied. So there's a lot happening in Cedar Rapids, but also we brought in the Neighborhood Finance Corporation from Des Moines, and they're providing low interest and forgivable loans in our core neighborhoods. And a lot of those core neighborhoods are really affordable housing and workforce housing. So that's a big component for what we're doing. And also, as we've mentioned, we have to get people back in their homes safely from when they had damage from the derecho. And the patch program is working with low to moderate income families who don't have the resources, were underinsured or uninsured, and can't repair their homes without help through the patch program. And the city has committed at least $1 million to that. We've had developers coming to Cedar Rapids. The projects that are down by Kirkwood the developer came from Indianapolis, and they love coming here. And they've talked about how welcoming the city is and how easy it is to work with the city. Every project has an issue, and the city always works with them to help figure that out. So there's a lot of projects happening right now. We understand the need. It's been there for a long time, and we're continuing to work hard and incent developers to come here and do those. And we provide standard incentives so they can plan ahead of time. And there's no backroom deals. They know what's available to them if they qualify and their project qualifies. And they're doing that every day. But there's more to do. Thanks.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Thanks, Todd. Certainly, a key part of my vision for Cedar Rapids is growing our workforce. We hear all the time we just don't have enough people here. We lose out on companies coming here because we don't have people here. And affordable housing is a key component to getting those people here. I just want to sort of level set. When I talk about affordable housing, I think about it in two buckets. We have affordable housing for the folks who need just a hand up at this moment in time, and then we also have affordable housing for that new workforce that may be new in the workforce and making a decent living, maybe $50,000 or $60,000 a year, but that's the gap that we don't have the housing to fill. We need more housing like that. So I'm really focused on infill. When I talk about affordable housing, I talk a lot about downtown and having, market housing as well as affordable housing side by side. And those neighborhoods surrounding our downtown, those areas where I talked about the 15-minute walkable, bikeable neighborhoods, that's our city center. Let's work on affordable housing with easy access to those services. I was really encouraged about, the workforce housing that we're getting from the state and the tax credits. What I'm also hearing is that as a city, we could have a role to play in incentivizing developers to move into our downtown. I mean, our downtown, if you've been down there now, post-pandemic, we have offices that aren't coming back full steam and likely won't for the foreseeable future. We have an opportunity to turn some of that into affordable housing. Let's get creative about that as a city. The developers tell me it's expensive to change, classes, class B to class C and vice versa. How can we as a city help that make sense for developers so we can have more interest in creating infill? I'm all about, opportunities like we're seeing out in college community and on the outskirts of town, but I want to be mindful of urban sprawl and I want to really focus on infill. And it seems like, affordable housing is the opportunity to use that.
Thanks. Amara?
Thank you. We really need more affordable housing here in Cedar Rapids, and it needs to take place throughout our city. Too often we are focused in one quadrant or one neighborhood when we are talking about affordable housing, and we need to break down these silos to ensure that there are affordable places to live throughout the city in every quadrant of the city. I also believe strongly in mixed use housing complexes. So you have an affordable apartment next to a condo, for example. So you'd have more engagement and inclusion in our city so that there is more diversity and more different kinds of people living together in a community. I also know that we need more shelter space for our homeless population. And we have ARPA funding that we could use for that. So we need to think through where we want our shelter space as well. And I do believe that there are many opportunities for people to buy homes, and we need to look at first-time home buyer opportunities, increase those opportunities for families and for young professionals as well. And lastly, to the point of incentivizing developers, we definitely need to incentivize developers as they're looking to build these condos downtown. Those need to include affordable housing units and across the city. On the northeast side by Edgewood, all of these places where we're developing, we need to ensure that those places include affordable housing units, both affordable apartments and affordable condos and homes for purchase.
Thank you. We'll switch to our second question, and it remains a 2-minute question. Brad, we start with you, and that is, do you think downtown is healthy? How can you tell? And what would you change to improve its health?
Well, it depends on what you compare it to. Compared to 2008, I think it's incredibly healthy. There's an active nightlife. The pandemic, as Tiffany mentioned, the pandemic has certainly impacted our office buildings, and more people are working at home, and we're gonna have to figure that out. Some businesses will bring people back because their culture is really important, and it's hard to build that culture when people are working remotely. But there will be changes downtown because of that, and there are opportunities for some housing to develop downtown. One of the key things for our downtown is to have at least one more hotel downtown. Our convention center will handle larger conventions, but our hotel doesn't have enough rooms. And people don't want to travel. They don't want to get on a bus or drive their car. They want to be able to walk to their meetings during the convention. So that will be have a huge impact. And we're looking at hotels, a couple different places. I'm still hoping that Heart of America will come in and repurpose the Guaranty Bank building and build a Marriott AC behind the World Theater. I think those would be terrific for our entire community. And otherwise, I'm afraid the Guaranty Bank building is just going to continue to deteriorate. So finding another hotel downtown is really important for the entire downtown. And then we'll just have to continue to work with our developers and the property owners as they work through the issues on whether or not they're going to bring their employees back into those spaces or not. That's it. Thank you. Tiffany?
Is our downtown healthy? No, it's not. I work downtown, and I can tell you it's very quiet. It's very quiet these days. And I work at Women Lead Change. We're inside a lot of the companies that are down there, and we know, as I mentioned, very few of them are coming back as they did before. Very much a hybrid model with people in and out of there just a few days a week. So the downtown is a shadow of itself. I grew up in the Quad Cities. I grew up in Bettendorf, and I remember when Cedar Rapids was a big city. You'd come to Armstrong's and Killian's at Christmas, and it was just skyscrapers to me. Boy, if we could get that energy and that life back. Every successful city has a strong city center, and it's not just for Cedar Rapids, it's for the cities around us. They lean on us to have a strong downtown. And that means, I would say, the visual is people walking their dogs. You got to have people down there. You have different types of people, different types of housing. As I said, market-based, affordable housing. You need to have business down there. You also need shops, boutiques, as well as bars and restaurants. You have to have all of that working together. And, I was fortunate to live in Des Moines, kind of when they had their rebirth. I lived there when it was very, very sleepy, and Court Avenue was the spaghetti works. And then the downtown really had a revitalization. And what started that was housing. The Brown Camp Loft started, and then you started to have, you'd have some food stores, and you started to get other stores, and you created districts, and there really became life down there. One of the things I've come out in support of is the casino, in support of the gaming referendum. And if we were to get that and it were to pass by the commission, I would advocate to have our casino downtown, not as a be all end all, but as a piece of that puzzle that helps bring life and energy and entertainment for us downtown, as well as the first projects that we see next to downtown, which could be something for families as well as adults. So we just need varied entertainment. We need varied entertainment. We need varied commerce to bring it back to life, but it's a key component.
Thank you, Tiffany. Amara.
I believe our downtown could use some nutrition. You asked if it's healthy, and I think it needs some help. We need more housing opportunities. I mentioned the mixed use, having affordable housing mixed in with regular units downtown. Downtown also should be walkable. You should be able to walk to a grocery store. You should be able to walk and get some fresh produce. That's currently not an option. And I tell you, I have lived all over the country. Never have I seen a city with a beautiful river running through it without a robust riverfront with lots of things to do. And I know that that's on the horizon, but we need to get there. We need to do what we can to ensure that we get there and we are taking full advantage of the beautiful river running through our city. I also, when I lived in Champaign, was part of a campaign. What we experienced in Champaign was brain drain. People were leaving and going to the coast, similar to what we experience here with people leaving. And so we need to tell the story of Cedar Rapids. We need to explain to people that this is a desirable place to live. It's affordable. The cost of living is low. There are plenty of things to do. And we need to tell this story so that people will want to come here and live downtown. And lastly, what I'll say is that we need more entertainment downtown, more entertainment that reflects the diversity in our city. Right now, there are not things to do for everybody. There aren't many things to do for families. So taking the pulse of the community and figuring out what the needs are of our community and ensuring that those are met downtown is definitely essential.
Thank you, Amara. Myra.
Same question then?
Correct. Is downtown healthy?
Well, I just drove through there today. I see a lot of vacancies down there. And I must tell you, I've been here long enough. When I was a child, we used to have Armstrongs and Killians and movie theaters and places to eat. And, not only we lose a lot of office space down there, but a lot of the bars and restaurants are closing. And to me, just having a community downtown with a bunch of bars and restaurants isn't really something that's going to be lively for everybody. You have those business people down there with restaurants and they're working their hearts out trying to make it. And you look at a lot of them, they close. I mean, 75% of the ones that open 1 year later are done. They've closed up. They haven't made it. So if you call that a success, I think you need to reevaluate your idea of what success is. So, as far as affordable housing downtown, no, I mean, there's no affordable housing. I have a friend that just bought one of the riverfront places over there, $400,000 because he got a 10-year tax abatement. Well, then they charge more for it because they really didn't save anything. And if you think $450,000 is affordable living, you need to get off your horse, and take a little walk around because it's not the way it is. Affordable housing, making something small, something somebody can afford to live in. And you're talking about up here, I think our tax base is terrible. It's high. I told you before, my son's got a house, 650, and then my roommate's dad, he had a house over in the northwest side. It's $48,000 a year property taxes. Now, if you took it outside of Marion, it would have been a fourth of that. So if you call that a success, I don't call that a success. I call that robbery. And but downtown has to get something to go. And right now I don't know the answer to that. I think we'll have to get a think tank and have them work on that to come up with some really viable options.
Thank you, Myra.
Okay, the next question is, the city council approved a new climate plan this week, which has been mentioned. Do you support the plan? Do you support the net zero carbon emission goal by 2050? Is it too ambitious or not ambitious enough? Explain your position. Tiffany, you're first.
Oh, Todd, thank you. And I couldn't be prouder of our city approving that climate action plan, the work that's gone into it, that we thought enough to have, a sustainability manager, on staff at the city, that we worked, with our industry partners as well as community partners and researchers for best in practice to come up with this plan. And it is ambitious. It is extremely ambitious. When I first saw it, I thought, wow, I guess go big or go home, and Cedar Rapids is going big. And what particularly excites me about this is, from day one of my campaign, about my vision of Cedar Rapids is this walkable, bikeable, and the climate action plan actually includes busable neighborhoods, not just downtown, but our neighborhoods that surround us. We've got such unique neighborhoods. Everything old is new again, right? I mean, Mound View, you're starting to see where you're going to have opportunities to develop, boutiques as well as, coffee shops and a barber. Time check, it's not far off. You can envision a 15-minute walk. We have a pizza place coming in there. Fancy's is coming in there. We've got an exciting nonprofit market. So you actually have fresh food available. I'm just praying that works, because what a model that would be for time check. Wellington Heights, I could envision that even around Redmond Park. The climate action plan calls for that. It calls for 15-minute walkable, bikeable neighborhoods. And that's probably the most exciting thing for me. I want to make sure that we continue to look at that. 2050, I know it seems like a long way away, but who would have thought would be at 2021? I want to make sure that we are working side by side with the industry that's here. I know when Eric Holthaus talked about when we level set and began this process, he met with the industry that's so important to Cedar Rapids, and they were already acting on it. They have their own plans. I want to continue to make sure that we cultivate those relationships and we work side by side to make sure that it's a win-win for everybody.
So, okay.
I support it, Todd.
Yeah, I was going to follow up. So you are supportive of the zero carbon.
I am, absolutely.
Okay. Amara, I think you're next.
I am really excited about the climate action plan, and kudos to the city, kudos to the Sunrise Movement for helping get that done. I do agree that it is an aggressive plan, but that's what we need to do. We need to be aggressive because we are in a climate crisis. If we don't do something about the way that we are living, we will continue to see natural disasters like our floods and our derechos, and they will be larger, more difficult problems for us to solve and recover from. So it is important that we take aggressive steps. And it's going to be important that as we are looking to implement this plan, that we stay the course. All too often, we lose focus. There are other things that draw our attention, but we need to be sure that we stay focused on this climate action plan because it is critically important. And we need to be moving, as you know, from a gray to a green economy. And that's just what the plan does. So I'm proud of the climate action plan. I'm excited to lead and ensure that we adhere to this plan, much like our flood mitigation plan and many other plans that we have in place. We often fall short. So it will behoove the person who is in office to stay the course and ensure that we are getting the job done, moving from a gray to a green economy. It was one of the things that has always been important to me, and that's why the Sunrise Movement actually has endorsed me. Endorsed me for mayor. So in favor of the plan, very excited about it.
Thanks. Myra?
This is one of the things that upsets me with Cedar Rapids. Years ago, we had a mayor that was trying to be mayor. He met with the Riverfront Commission because, we have problems with our river. And these old boys knew it better than probably anybody. He said once he got elected, he would make that Riverfront Commission viable again. I mean, these guys didn't charge anything. They didn't get money. But did they do it? No. After he got elected, he forgot all about it. As far as being zero energy, I'm fully behind that. My daughter is 27, and when she lived with me a senior year in school, she used to call me tree hugger. I mean, you come to my house right today, you'll see a lot of green things. I have a solar fan that I think is one of the best investments you'll put into your house. It'll cut your cooling costs and save you money. It costs nothing to run. And I have an acreage that it's going to be off grid. We have 20 solar panels out there. We have 3 windmills, and it's going to be, I have hope making a model for other people to be able to live that way, or to actually turn their place into being off grid, or, so I think these plans would be great, but, I hear them all the time, but I don't see them really following through with it. I hope they do, because people don't think climate is a problem. Look around, because it is. And if the city wants to do something like this, I hope it's just not another smoking mirrors that they're not going to follow through with. And because I've seen that. I have seen that a lot as an upcast. And I'll tell you, that's one of the reasons I should be mayor, because I'm going to make sure that we follow through with this and get some of our minds. I said earlier, in Cedar Rapids, people don't realize we have some of the most brilliant minds in the world live here. One of my students' father was a theoretical nuclear physicist, one of the top 10 in the world. You guys probably never even heard of him, have you? Never talked to him, never interviewed him. But why don't we bring people like that in? So that's one of the reasons I should be mayor of Cedar Rapids. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Brad?
Well, absolutely. I fully support the plan. Obviously, I and the rest of council were the ones who initiated this. Said we have a climate crisis and we have to take steps. And we moved Eric forward along with the rest of the city team. And I think, like the city often does, we really engage the rest of the community. And we hired Eric Holtos as the sustainability officer, the first city in the state to do that. And Eric took several steps that the city could do, but we knew that wasn't enough. We had to really engage the rest of the community, and they did a great job of that. Yeah, it took 18 months, but I think most people who are doing this work would say that was pretty fast. And the key thing is that we have, various groups involved in it. We have homeowners involved in it, nonprofits involved, businesses, and industry. And as Tiffany mentioned, several of those industries are already they already have plans of their own, and that's great. I'm not sure those plans are going to get us to the goals. So I think we will continue to push those plans forward, but we are also committed. We will have updates at least yearly, and it's going to be a living document. We want updates. The whole community is involved in it, so I don't think there's any chance that it sits on the shelf. I think the whole community will demand that we keep moving that forward. And I'm excited to be part of that. And I'm really proud of the city team and this entire community for getting behind it and working so hard to put this in place.
Thank you. Our next question, it's also a 2-minute response, is what is your view of the Cedar Rapids Police Department? Do initiatives like the Citizens Review Board go far enough to address equity in policing? What, if any, specific changes do you believe are necessary, and how would you go about making them? Amara, we start with you.
I think the Cedar Rapids Police Department is doing a good job. It could do much better. We have the data from our Citizens Review Board that shows there's still a disproportionate impact. There is disproportionately more violence when you have a victim who, not a victim. When a police officer pulls over a person of color, they are more likely to use violence than when the person is white. And so we see from this data from the Citizens Review Board that we still have work to do. I am proud to have been one of the leaders who initiated the Citizens Review Board, and I think it's a step in the right direction, but it is not enough. We need to ensure that our police officers are trained in implicit bias training and in de-escalation. I just mentioned the use of force disparity. So we need to look at that and ensure that our police officers are trained and understand how the data reflects on them and how they may change their behavior accordingly. We also need to look at our recruiting efforts when we are thinking about recruiting people into the police department. the police department, the police need to reflect the communities in which they serve. They need to live in the communities and they need to look like the people that they are supposed to be protecting. And so we need to do more. We need more investment in training and in recruiting. And we also need to look at our marijuana laws, because I think there we have seen the data. The ACLU released the data a year or two ago that show that people who are arrested for marijuana charges are disproportionately Black. And so looking at marijuana arrest is also something that an easy thing that we can do to address disparities in policing.
Thank you, Amara. And we'll have a question further on that, not to give you hints, but we can go further into that. Myra.
Yes. Hey, I have a brother that was a young man one time. He's older than me. Went into Vietnam, come back in the Marine Corps, got a little drunk, ended up in the jail. 5 part-time deputy sheriffs beat him up so bad and took the boot to him, he had brain damage. And today he's still alive, living on my mom and dad's acreage. Mom and dad have passed away, but my mom and dad had to take care of him. So he's not Black, he's white, and it happens. And that's a tragedy all around. I don't care what color you are. They do need to learn how to be respect. I think the cops have a very, very tough job. They're under such scrutiny today, but we have some that could use a little more reining in and understanding what their job really is, and their job is to protect and to serve. Like I said with my brother, I've seen it firsthand, and something needs to get done about that. And I think that the training, there's something missing there, but I think that's something I could help them with and work with. Being a self-defense expert at one time, and 5 times national taekwondo champion, I think I could help them. But I think our police need our support. And actually, I bought some shirts that I'm going to be wearing that I support the police officers. And I think there's too many of them out there doing a great job, and for the few that are not. And one thing you got to learn about being a police officer is that people need to respect you as you need to respect them. And I said earlier, I think that's the big thing, is just respecting each other. Best thing to not have a confrontation with a police officer is first listen to them, and I know I've had a little running with police recently myself. As you know, somebody shot 2 of my cars and my house, and recently they were shot in my 8th Avenue property. And you talk about affordable housing. I have 8.
Hey, Myra.
I ran out of none.
Thank you. We're at the 2-minute mark. Brad.
Well, I'm very proud of our police department. Are they perfect? No, none of us are. Our police department is CALIA accredited. That's the gold standard for accreditation of police departments across the country. And we receive full accreditation the first time through. That's very rare. That means that we have the best processes, procedures, training that the industry is aware of. And so I'm really proud of them. Do we need to continue to look at things? Yes, the data shows that Blacks are disproportionately arrested for different issues, and we need to look at that, and we are looking at that. And luckily, our police chief fully understands this. The Citizens Review Board is the appropriate, it's a review model of a Citizens Review Board. And for a community like Cedar Rapids that has not had in 10 years a founded claim of police brutality, that seems very appropriate to me. And the NACOL, the National Association of Citizen Oversight of Law Enforcement, praised the effort that was made by Amara and others and the city putting this together, but she thought that this was a really strong and just the right type of Citizen Review Board for Cedar Rapids. And we'll keep looking at it. If it's not, we'll make changes to it. But right now, I'm excited about the people who are willing to serve on that, and they'll work hard. I know they will. And the police department, the police chief is going to be as cooperative as he possibly can be, because he wants to build further trust of the police department within our community, so that works for all of us. Crime goes down for everybody if people will cooperate with our police department.
Thank you. Tiffany.
Yeah, I have such incredible respect for our police department. There will be no defunding of anything, were I to be mayor. If anything, I applaud the efforts of our chief, who's been there a while, who's been a chief, been in law enforcement for many years, and has a willingness to be better and encourage his officers and the rank and file to be better. As a city, I think we should be proud that, we're not okay with just being okay in our police department, that we are willing to follow through with diversity training. We are willing to spend money on traffic stop audits at the tune of $30,000 a year. That's a commitment to making sure that we're doing things well. I'm a firm believer that when we don't know what we don't know. And then when we do know better, we do better. And I was curious to see how things worked myself. I went on a ride with Sergeant Briley, about a month and a half ago, just to get a taste for what an evening on the beat looked like for him. And I have to tell you that the instances of compassion, the instances of mental health support that he needed to provide, some of the willingness for him to make subjective decisions in order to keep people out of real trouble. I was incredibly encouraged and heartened by the work that I saw there. So I would advocate to continue the work that we're doing with the Citizens Review Board. I think we also need to continue our work with organizations like Foundation 2 and providing mental health support, because we know that's a component now of policing more and more, unfortunately. We also need to continue that work we do with the GCRCF and in trying to be proactive in identifying those who may have a propensity to offend, and be proactive about keeping that from happening.
Okay. On a separate question on the November 2nd ballot, Lynn County voters are going to decide whether to permanently authorize gambling in Lynn County and allow Cedar Rapids to once again seek a casino license from the Racing and Gaming Commission. With the First and First location now part of a different project, where would you favor a casino be built if a license were obtained? And I think first is Myra.
Well, there's several proposals building a casino on different things, like places. And I will say, casino's already passed. I'm still trying to figure out why we're even voting this thing. We got to get the Des Moines to go along with it and issue a license. But we did spend $4 million for that Cooper's Mill, tore it down. And now it's a parking lot for $4 million. The city seems to waste a lot of money and then turn around and do nothing with it. I mean, there's a building downtown they bought for $4 million, sold it to an investor for $250,000. I wish I would have been him. What a deal. And so they've thrown away $4 million or $5 million, I believe it was, on Cooper's Mill. I think that area down there would be a good place for it. And I certainly, as mayor, I would push for that as much as I can. And, we'd have to work with Des Moines and get that license, because without that license, we're doing nothing. The state has to issue it. The state has to go along with it. And Cedar Rapids, I think we're the second largest single city in the state, and we don't have a casino. Time to get moving.
Okay, thank you. Brad?
Well, ideally, it'll be close to the downtown area, or if not that, in and around the Nubo-Czech Village area. The problem is certainly finding land. I think the Cooper's Mill site is a possibility, although right now there are restrictions on what can be put there because of the flood control system. But that's an area to look at because it's close enough, and it would help revitalize the Northwest neighborhood, which lost so many of those homes. The other site I think we have to look at is the old Farmstead site. Right now, there's a levee there already. It's by kickstand there. we're dumping extra snow there in the winter to use that land. I think that's a site that would be still close enough, be just off 3rd Street. People could get to and from downtown easily, and certainly to and from the new Bochek Village area. So I think those are 2 real possibilities. That would be ideal. We need to get a license here somewhere in Cedar Rapids, and I hope it's in or near downtown or New Bow. But the key thing is to get a license here. There are 20 land licenses in Iowa now, and Cedar Rapids doesn't have one. So if the voters approve the gambling referendum, which I expect they will, then we will do everything we can to support it, which the city did in the past. But there's some changes in the Racing and Gaming Commission, and the fact that Nebraska now has gaming, it's reducing some of the gaming revenue for the entire state. So I do think there's a better chance for another casino license in Iowa. And I do think Cedar Rapids is really in first line to get that.
Thank you. Tiffany?
Yeah, I believe I was the first candidate for mayor to go on record in advocating to have that casino downtown. And the reason why I did that is because I was hearing rumblings that it would be, some of the locations were outside of the city center, say even out by the airport. And I just feel that that's such a missed opportunity. So I wanted to be on record early as saying it's got to be, in downtown or near downtown. And we can get creative about land. I mean, we're talking about how our downtown's a shell of itself. I think we can get creative about what that looks like downtown. And I believe that those behind the casino are willing to talk about that, ways to have that make sense for us. I'm just going to add too, I also was the first to come out and say, last time around, the nonprofit needed to give 3% of the revenue back to nonprofits in town. I was on record as saying it has to be at least 5% to get this thing again. And wouldn't you know, I was really proud to hear that perhaps that had an impact. And now they've decided to give 8% back to our nonprofits, which is a game changer. Women Lead Change, the organization I run, does a lot of work in cities that have casinos. And the casinos have been a game changer in these cities. I grew up in the Quad Cities, pre and post boat. I saw the impact that casino had on our schools and in our downtown revitalization. So it needs to be in downtown or close to downtown. Again, I can't stress enough, it is not a be all end all. It's not a panacea. It is a piece of the revitalization puzzle. And I believe that if ever we had a shot at getting it, it is this time around. We know that we've lost about 30% of revenue to Omaha now. We have, you can't really argue about competition now because you have sports betting on your mobile phone now. And we have some new gaming commission members. So I am encouraged that this time around, the voters will pass it handily with a wide margin, and Des Moines will pay attention to that.
Okay, thanks. Amara?
Well, I think we should be very careful. We need to consider our local businesses. We need to consider the needs of our community before deciding where to put a casino. Our local businesses will be impacted. And so we need to consult the businesses around potential areas to ensure that they won't be impacted in a way that puts them out of business. So we need to be very careful in how we are deciding where to put the casino. I do believe it will pass. It seems like most people are in favor of that. And I am very excited about the promise of 8% of the revenue coming back to the city. That is a substantial amount, and we'll be able to do a lot of good with 8% of the revenue. I also think that as we are considering where we build, we think about how we build and ensuring that we are using union workers, that we are paying fair wages. And to the point we were talking about earlier in our climate action plan, ensuring that this building is sustainable, having a LEED certified casino. So there are a lot of considerations that we need to be thinking about when we are selecting a location. But I think what is most important is that we select a location that works for the businesses, existing businesses, in our city. Their voices need to be heard, and their voices need to come first as we're making this assessment.
Right, thank you. We've now reached the rotation where we will ask each of you a unique question. And so I'm going to go first. You'll have 2 minutes to respond. Mayor Hart, following the derecho, the comment you made about not needing the National Guard took on a life of its own and became a distraction to the city's response. There were also rumors that you were staying out of town after the derecho rolled through. Where were you in the hours after the storm? What have you learned from the incident, and what would you do differently next time should you be in charge of a disaster response?
Well, I did not refuse the National Guard. We requested all the services we could get, including helping to clear our streets. The state determined to send 100 Department of Transportation drivers and trucks, and they started arriving on Tuesday to help clear our streets. Then the state sent the National Guard to help restore power, to work in smaller areas with our utility companies, and they started to arrive on Thursday. I didn't leave town for a moment. I didn't even drive to Iowa City or Hiawatha. I slept Monday night in my severely damaged home and every night after that. Police Chief German came to our house Monday night to deliver an initial assessment of the damage and what we were already doing. And the very next day, when we instituted the Incident Command Center at the Central Fire Station, the next morning and every day after that for 2 weeks, I was at the fire station with Chief German, Fire Chief Smith, our city directors, a city manager, other council members, and our first responders as we dealt with all the various issues that the derecho caused and created. We certainly do it over. I would have said we don't need the National Guard to clear our streets because we already knew that the state wasn't going to send them for that. I was trying to be proactive, but I should have said, but we need the National Guard for everything else they can possibly bring. And the state sent them, as I said, on Thursday to help restore power. We asked for lots of resources from all sorts of people. We learned a lot, and we'll implement all that. We have disaster planning. Of course, we have disaster planning, but we've never faced something like the derecho, where you couldn't communicate. Nobody had power. The streets were impassable. But the lessons we are learning from that and have learned from that will be part of our implementation so that the entire city is more prepared if we're faced with another disaster.
Thank you.
Okay. This one's for Tiffany. This week, Amara launched a fundraising effort, which said, quote, our opponents will move Cedar Rapids backward. Tiffany O'Donnell is a Republican who has donated and supported the types of politicians who are trying to undermine the integrity of the 2020 election by pushing the big lie, unquote. How do you respond to these types of comments, and what do you say to voters who may be curious about past campaign support and how it will impact your decision-making as mayor?
Well, I appreciate you asking that question because I'm running in this race because it is nonpartisan. You know, I firmly believe that we have an opportunity to show the world how this works. We can be a solutions-based government. Everyone here that's running for mayor, everyone on the city council, you know, is affiliated with a political party. And I credit our council for really doing their work in a nonpartisan way. You know, we are the party of Cedar Rapids, and I have wholeheartedly embraced that. I am a registered Republican. I'm a Cedar Rapidian first. I think it's interesting. I Googled, you know, campaign donations for me. And I think the first one that came up for campaign donation was one to Fred Hubble for governor, you know, a Democrat that ran for governor. So I think if anyone were to do some work and look and see where I've actually, you know, put my funds, I have supported individuals in both parties and because I know them as people, and I've either worked with them professionally or I know them personally. So I would encourage people to look and see, you know, exactly how I've spent my money. I'm somebody who is, unlike Ms. Andrews, not beholden to a political party. You know, I didn't get money from Emily's List. You know, I haven't gotten money from, you know, from any Republican group. I actually asked to go in front of the Phoenix Club and they turned me down because I wasn't a Democrat. You know, I've wholeheartedly embraced the idea that I want to represent everybody in Cedar Rapids, regardless of political party. And I'm doing my best to make sure that I get my support from people in every party. You look at people who publicly endorse me, and we have well-known Democrats and we have well-known Republicans and even independents who see me as the right leader, as they say, at the right time for Cedar Rapids. So I encourage everybody, we're sick of the partisanship. I hear that every day. We're sick of it. Cedar Rapidians are sick of it. So why don't we embrace being the party of Cedar Rapids? And I'm the one to do that.
All right, I wanted to stay with this theme and give you a chance. So that the question would be, related to that messaging. You're seeking a nonpartisan seat. Why push hard partisan messaging when you'd still have to work with differing points of view if you're elected to that seat? How would you go back at developing a teamwork with the council?
That's a great question. And we all are in this to represent everybody, but it's about the policies and the way that we want to move our city forward. And so I believe my position is I want to move us in a way forward that is progressive. And you have many people who Ms. O'Donnell has supported, for example, who are working very hard to move us backwards. For example, restricting voting. I don't believe that. I believe that voting is a right. I believe that we should be increasing access to vote, not taking access away. If you think about, diversity training, I believe that we should be training our police in diversity. I believe we should be training our city staff. There are legislators in office who are doing the opposite, who are saying we can't do that it's actually illegal to do that. And these kinds of policies, I think, are harmful for our city. And that's not the direction that we should go. And so I have said all along, my campaign is about putting people first. People, small businesses, workers, and that is the truth. It doesn't matter what party you belong to, but there are members of certain parties who believe things that are damaging to our community. And that is what I strongly oppose. I believe we should be, considering workers, that people should make a living wage. I believe that we should be able to train and teach diversity in the schools. So these are policy considerations. These are points of view that matter. It's not necessarily the party, but the Republican Party has moved in a direction that is divisive and is damaging for our city going forward.
Okay, can I respond to that at all? Because I think it's important to note, I would like to ask, as I've given, I've supported individuals for various positions like Liz Mathis, those running here locally like a Monica Vernon, who's, our opinions don't align on every issue, but they align on some of them. I would just challenge, I'm wondering if Ms. Andrews can say she's ever donated to somebody in the Republican Party.
And I could say that I have not, because I don't typically support those views. And I would throw my money behind somebody whose views I support. And I'm not aligned with Donald Trump. I don't support those views. I think, like I said, I think they are damaging to our city and to our country, frankly, and to our state.
All right.
Okay,
I think we've given you each an opportunity to respond. We're going to move on.
Okay. So next to you, Myra, how do you respond to critics of your campaign that don't see it as a serious run for mayor?
Well, I have run for different offices, and as an independent since the year 2000, I don't have a lot of money behind me. I put my own hard sweat miles. When I ran for governor, I put over 10,000 miles on my car, running around talking to people. There's always negative people that think, oh, it's never going to be whatever, but they're wrong. This is a grassroots thing. I'm not fundraising. I'm not trying to get money. I tell people all the time, you really want to help me? Vote for me and get 5 people to vote for me. I think you're going to see a big change this time. It's hard to be a serious candidate. As you can see right now, we have 2 people that are fighting about Democrats and Republicans. This is a Cedar Rapids issue. It's a nonpartisan issue, but yet they'll want to talk about, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or whatever. We need to think about Cedar Rapids and the people here. But it's hard when I ran for governor, out of over 3 million people that could voted in the state of Iowa, less than 900,000 people voted. So as I said earlier, in the last talk, Mary Lumby spent hours trying to educate people on voting. It was really a waste of her time. Myra Bradwell, of years ago, she was a big women's liberalist. She wanted women to have that right to vote. Didn't live to see it. I think she would be ashamed of how it's come today because a lot of women don't vote. A lot of people don't vote. You got the low and middle class. I tell you all the time, and I tell people when I'm talking to low and middle class could control this country, but we give up that one thing that legislators are afraid of, and that is our vote. And I was at the State House when I was lobbying for a bill, and I heard legislators refer to non-voters as non-entities. I will never forget that as long as I live. If you don't vote, they think you're a non-entity. So please get out to vote and tell people how important that really is.
Okay, thank you. So we've reached the ever popular lightning round. We're going to ask questions that you can give an old-fashioned, which hand am I using? Thumbs up or thumbs down. And then if you wish, we can give you a minute to explain your answer. So number one, does Cedar Rapids need a senior center? Anybody want to jump in first, or anybody need to explain? Brad?
Yes, I just began a meeting with really key groups, including the hospitals, aging services, talking about that because of the ARP money. We thought, well, maybe here's this chance to do this because I know that the city would provide some kind of level of support for a senior center. The consensus, well, there wasn't consensus that one's needed yet. What I really understood was all of the different groups that provide services now need to be at the table and figuring out how those services can best be provided. There are ways to share some of the facilities that are already there, for the hospitals to share those facilities, even for some of the living communities to share those facilities. So I don't have an answer. I thought we needed one. We might need one. But the key thing is really what I'm doing now is getting these groups to get together and talk about it so we can figure out the best way. And we're trying to become a more age-friendly city so senior citizens can live here and be engaged well into their 80s and 90s.
Thanks.
I just would add that senior care is exorbitantly expensive. And so for low-income people, there are not many options. So we definitely need to have a senior care here for our aging population.
Okay.
Did you, we just have a comment that went into the chat, can only see 2 candidates for the thumbs up vote. And so Tiffany, you were a thumbs up. Do you want to do a quick explanation?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think specifically, I was talking to some folks over at Tommy's. I do breakfast with Tiffany and I get a lot of good feedback. And one of it is about a senior center and a place to go. There's the Northwest Recreation Center, but the folks that I was talking to said that they have to pay to use the facility for that. So in every quadrant, we need a place where our seniors can go. I have my parents, I think anymore, a lot of their recreation is around volunteering. And they've even said it would be nice to have a place to go just to congregate. So using existing facilities we have, but also limiting the cost or no cost, I think is also a critical component to that.
All right. And Myra, did you want to give a quick explanation, your thumbs up?
Well, I agree with it. I think Alden's had good points because, our senior citizens today, as you know, I was a COVID survivor. I wanted to die. And, for these senior citizens to be in nursing homes and not be able to see their families and having things. And it's just a travesty. I've cried over it. But now with is kind of getting maybe back to normal a little bit. It'd be nice for them to have a senior center that they can actually go and talk to. I'm not even sure if it really needs to be funded by the city. I think a lot of the church groups do some of this kind of stuff. Years ago, I remember we had the Whitmer Center downtown, and that was a huge thing for the people that I knew that was my age today, and to go and meet with other people the same age and kind of the same like-mindedness. So yeah, I certainly support that, and I would work towards getting that accomplished again.
Okay. The next question in the lightning round, so it remains thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you support the continued use of speed cameras? And we're going to keep in order, so it'll be Amara starting with this question, and we'll get back in the rotation. Okay, Amara, it's a split vote this time. Thumbs up from Amara and from Mayor Hart, thumbs down from Tiffany and Myra. Okay, Amara, we come first to explanation from you.
Well, the main reason I support the speed cams is that they bring in a lot of revenue to the city that we need, especially right now after derecho and COVID. We need the revenue that comes in from the speed cams. I actually, as a lawyer, think they could be unconstitutional, but it's a financial reason. I think the city needs that revenue.
Okay, Myra.
Well, I don't agree with them at all. I think that our police, they want to police the speed camera, the speeding, they should do that. Maybe what's next? The chip in the head. I mean, they want to put a mark of the beast, and every time we're having bad thoughts, they can come and arrest us or find us or send us a ticket. I've heard, I can't tell you the number of people I've heard from that have went through the city of Cedar Rapids that are not part of it and said that they will do everything they can to avoid Cedar Rapids. No, I don't think it's constitutional. And once again, it shows how government is, and my candidates are the lawyers want it, because it's about revenue. It's not about protecting anybody. It's about money. It's like that 1% sales tax auction they got years ago for the roads. I don't believe it's gone to that. And now they wanted to extend it again because they'll never want to give it back. So no, I don't agree with the speed camera.
We're on track. Brad.
Absolutely, I support it, and I support it for safety reasons. The data shows that the number of accidents has gone down dramatically. I don't remember the percentage, but it's like 50%. And the accidents with injuries was down like 60 or 65% on the S curve. Putting officers out, especially on the S curve, to patrol that is dangerous. And we had an officer who was injured. Maybe an officer died before I even came back to Cedar Rapids. It's just too dangerous there. And frankly, it's 12 miles or more over the speed limit. That's too fast. I have no sympathy for people who are driving that fast, and the people who I get letters from say, "Oh, I'll never come to your city." Said, listen, if you're going to drive recklessly fast and endanger my citizens, I don't want you here anyway. And it does provide certainly significant revenue that we're using for public safety purposes. And that's absolutely important. We were able to hire 8 or 10 new police officers using those funds. That's really important too. And we've survived every challenge. Sorry.
All right, Tiffany.
Okay, so my thumbs down wasn't because I just sent, a second $75 check last week, but I did. I have been against them since the very beginning. And I think if it was, I appreciate those safety numbers, and no one's gonna, say, safer road is better. But I think if it's really about safety, let's just call it for what it is. I mean, the mayor touched on it. It's a revenue stream. And what concerns me about it, like so many things, and Myra touched on this too, we've gotten used to $6 million from it. So now what do we do? I think I'm just not sure. I think if it were truly about safety, it would go on my record. This is an example of something, we've got this money that we now count on to pay for officers that should be in our operating budget anyway. Something like this should be additional. It should be, it's a bad word, but in my budgeting, when we budget, we call it an opportunity. It should be additional funding that supplements the work, the money that we already have in our budget for those officers.
Okay. Next, should the city be able to pass a local mask ordinance requiring the use of masks? And why or why not? So thumbs up, thumbs down.
Is the question, should the city be able to, or should the city do that?
Be able to. I think it's, sort of a comment both on masking and also, the loss of maybe local control at the hands of the legislature. Let's see. Tiffany, Amara have thumbs up. Brad, thumbs up. Myra, I didn't see yours. Oh, he's kind of a
undecided.
middle.
Undecided.
Well, you're undecided, and you're first to explain.
Oh, well, listen, and this, I say, one of the things we need is respect here. One thing I want to add, I am not here alone. And when we're talking about them speed cameras and making it a bunch safer, you ought to have seen all these people went nuts over that. They do not believe it, Mayor Hart. But they, as far as the camera or the mask, God, you have people going to restaurants and fighting with the waitresses going after wearing a mask. To me, it seems like a very simple thing to do. I wear my mask. After I was got treated at the University of Iowa for COVID, and I was at a gas station here, and there was a middle-aged young man, but he said, "You think that mask is doing you any good?" I said, "No, not at all. But it's doing you good." I said, "Have you ever met a COVID survivor?" That he had not. I said, "Well, you have today." And I don't know, it's just tough to regulate if people can't respect everybody. Those waitresses and people that are working in the restaurants are people too. And
okay. All right, thank you.
It's a tough thing. Tough call.
Sure. Brad?
Well, yes, we should have that local control. It's a safety issue. It was a worldwide pandemic, and Cedar Rapids, Lynn County led the state in the number of cases and the number of deaths for the first 3 months the pandemic hit Iowa. And almost every day I was talking with the medical directors of both hospitals and with Lynn County Public Health, and they were saying, we have to wear masks. We have to wear masks. The numbers started to go down a little bit in May and June, and then they started to come back up in July and August. And so I issued the mask mandate because I think we would have won that argument with the state that mayors have certain emergency powers. And I think that's why nobody challenged that. But then the legislature negated that ability for cities to do that. And I'm disappointed in that because I understand that what's needed in Pocahontas is different than what's needed in Cedar Rapids, but we should be able to make decisions to protect our citizens.
Thanks. Tiffany?
Yeah, to the point of local control, absolutely. And that's why I put the thumbs up. I mean, that is something that absolutely should be left up to local governments. I mean, what happens in Oline is different than what happens in an urban area like Cedar Rapids. So I was disappointed that Des Moines, took that away from us. In terms of a mask mandate, I've said before, first of all, I'm vaccinated. Get vaccinated if you can. Second of all, I think people are more apt to follow a mandate if they understand how they get there. And that requires leadership, working with the smartest people in the room, with the local experts, doctors, hospitals, county officials, to say, what are those key metrics that get us to crisis? And let's reveal what those key metrics are so that everybody understands what they are. So when we tick those boxes, it's not a mystery when the government then tells us that we need to do this. I commend the Cedar Rapids School Board for giving us metrics to end a mandate. We should have something like that before we put one in place as well.
Okay, thanks. Amara?
Yeah, I had a thumbs up. I believe that the local government should be able to determine what's best for its citizens. It's a safety issue. And when our numbers rise, we need to be able to say it's time for everyone to wear a mask. And I would argue that we are getting close to that with ICU beds, not a whole lot of ICU beds, with our numbers of cases rising again. We are in a crisis. And so we need to have that ability to be able to issue a mandate. And kudos to Judge Pratt for allowing schools to make that decision. I think that was the right decision to make. And I think that mayors and local government should be able to do the same.
All right, our last lightning round question is, should the city continue to lobby the legislature to decriminalize small amounts of marijuana? Okay, Mayor, we'll start with you.
Well, it just seems so obvious. The states around us have legalized recreational marijuana. 16, maybe 18 states around the country have done that. Kids getting into the criminal justice system for having a little bit of pot is troubling. And for some of those kids, it still creates an issue for them to get that first job or even that second or third job. I bailed my son out of jail one night when he had a little bit of pot, and we had to go through the court system, but it was expensive and not everybody can afford to do that. So he got his deferred judgment. But I think the way the whole country is changing, and it's at least a step we need to take to decriminalize possession of a small amount of marijuana. I'm have been in favor and continue to be in favor of that.
All right, Tiffany.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that as well. Decriminalizing small amounts, at the very minimum, looking at alternative penalties for first offenses. I will tell you, I'm not all the way to legalizing marijuana. I'm not there yet. I'm not saying I'll never get there, but I'm not there yet. I have addiction in my family. I've seen what this can do. And, I've heard really smart people on both sides of this issue. So I can just tell you from a personal standpoint, to give you context to where I am from a very honest and vulnerable position, I'm not there to fully legalizing it yet. I am there when we talk about, decriminalizing small amounts for the very reasons that we've already heard, to completely ruin a young person's future because of this is senseless. So again, I would be in support of decriminalizing, or at least alternative penalties for first offenses.
All right, Amara.
Well, this was one of our demands, the ASJ demands last summer. So I am certainly in favor. I think that we need to do what we can to lobby the legislature for some common sense reform when it comes to marijuana for a number of reasons. We look at the disparate treatment of people, the disparate, that marijuana is used equal amounts between white and Black people, for example, but Black people are more likely to be arrested and more likely to be charged with marijuana possession. And so, that's one reason. The other is you look at alcohol. Alcohol is much more damaging to a person than marijuana. There's no reason that we shouldn't treat it the same. And also, you have our neighboring states. It's very confusing when our neighboring states have different laws with respect to marijuana. And lastly, I just want to say we should take the discretion out of the police officers' hands and just have the law changed.
All right, Myra.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting. You got a couple of Republicans, maybe 3 Republicans, I don't know, and an independent, me, and we actually all pretty much agree on it. And as I ran for governor, you could Google it. I was on a radio show and they asked me if I had legalized marijuana. I told them, to be honest, I can't get elected by saying I would legalize it, but I would decriminalize it right away. And no, it's not just the Black community, because I have a friend that has a little white girl, and she was, before she was 19, she was picked up with marijuana and avoided it. I mean, I even went to court with her, and she had to serve 3 days, but it was just nuts. And I have been fortunate enough in my lifetime to have been around the world. I've been to other countries, and some of the countries I've been to talking about marijuana, there's like, they can't believe the gazillions of dollars that we spend putting people away for a little marijuana. One of my big pet peeves is our court system. And recently up in Benton, the guy got caught making meth and heroin. He got a 1-year probation or deferred sentence.
Thank you, Myra. We'll finish that at another point.
So that ends the lightning round. We've got time for a couple more, 2 or 3 questions, and we're going to ask you to help squeeze those in. We're going to give you a minute to answer them. And the first one is, cooperation with the county has been too rare. What can the city do to encourage more cooperation and sync on long-term priorities? And I believe
It is Tiffany.
Tiffany.
Yeah, you know, if you'll hear two refrains from me, it's communication and relationships. And if I've seen a gap in our leadership over the last 3, almost 4 years, it's communication and relationships. The way to improve any of those relationships, whether it be with the county, which is certainly a critical relation for us as the largest city in our county, we got to have conversations. We got to have regular conversations. And some of those conversations are going to be difficult. You know, my approach always to those difficult conversations is to find places where we agree and find places where we align. And I know that our city and our county have a lot of alignment in terms of our goals, shared goals for our community. So I think at the end of the day, we have to be open and honest with each other. And I think we have to give each other grace too over what may be, you know, past miscommunications or past errors. But it starts with honest, early and often communication.
All right, Amara.
So we are better and stronger together. We work better when we have a collective IQ, right? The more people you have in a room who are smart and devoted, we are all serving, we're elected to serve the communities. And so there is no reason that the county and the city should not be working together, should not be meeting regularly, because we are all elected to serve the people of Lynn County and of Cedar Rapids. And so I believe strongly that city and county should work together. There are initiatives that we could be that we could take advantage of together. When we think about how we are distributing our ARPA funds, we should be working together on these plans. So for sure, there is a lot we can do together. A collective IQ is better than a singular focus.
Thanks. Myra?
Well, you know, Confucius say many hands make a light load. And so we all need to work together. And, you know, they've hit it on, we be public servants. We are public servants. One of the things I will lobby for real hardly is a full-time mayorship. I don't think a part-time mayorship is really any way to go. I think it's been a disaster for our city of Cedar Rapids. Even the county can see it and talks about it too. But I guess I'm not privy with the county and the city really not working together. Everybody in the county that I've talked to, you know, have more than helped me being a Cedar Rapidian. So we have to work together, and I'm just shocked to find out if we're not doing that.
Thanks, Myra. Brad?
Well, absolutely, the city and the county should be working closely together. We do work together on many issues, including the overflow homeless shelter. We were trying to create a permanent one, working together in part with the ARP funds. But even before that, the city works for the county on an overflow shelter every winter, and the city helps fund that. Clearly worked through the pandemic with Lynn County Public Health almost every day. We work together. The ARP funds is a great opportunity, and we have teams working together to try to make the best use of our combined ARP funds. And I'm either meet or I'm on the phone with Ben Rogers every 2 weeks on a Thursday morning at 9 to talk about issues. We share legislative priorities each legislative session, see what we can do together. And so there is cooperation, but it's not what it needs to be. And I'm committed to improving that. It just has been difficult. And Ben and I have started that relationship, and we'll continue to do that.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We're gonna run the news a few minutes longer tonight, and something that we do in print and never on TV. And so we have one more question, and then we'll move to closing statements. And so the question this round is, the city is continuing to progress with long-term flood protection, but there's a desire by many to try and move faster. Do you believe the city can achieve flood protection projects faster, and what specific steps can be put in place to speed up completion? And on the order of operations, Amara, this is your question first.
Yeah, we do need to move faster with our flood mitigation efforts. We need to look at the west side, and that plan needs to be moved along. Of course, we have to work with structural engineers. I mean, there are technical things, technical steps that we need to follow, but the funding is there, and we can move faster. You know, there's no reason not to. We need to maintain obviously safe working conditions and ensure that you know, we are actually protecting the city. But I believe we need to move faster, particularly on the west side, and that it's possible with the funding there.
All right, Myra.
Well, you know, this is something I have a lot of friends that, and I have property in those areas, and what they are doing, I think, is really not enough, and I'm not even sure it's really going to work. I've talked to a lot of very brilliant people, and they just shake their head and they think it's stupid. You know, I think that we need to come up with a really serious plan that's really going to help the city of Cedar Rapids if we ever go through that 100-year flood, and we will. It's not a matter of whether we will or not, it's just when. But you know, we are spending a lot of money to try to keep it from happening again, and it may not a lot of money for nothing. So we really got to sit down and think about whether that's what the plan we have is a good plan. You know, because we couldn't go through a flood again. I mean, we just couldn't do it.
All right, Brad.
Well, each segment of the flood control system we put in place protects that and makes having to create temporary HESCO barriers easier. And so that's important. We are funding this through the GRI, Growth Reinvestment Initiative. The state is allowing us to keep the growth in our sales tax to fund flood protection. And we are using that. We also have the timing. It deals with the Army Corps of Engineers. It also deals with the ability to get the type of engineers and crews that can do that kind of work. We are looking again at, do we want to bond for this so we can speed up the work? Part of it is we have to make sure we have bonding capacity available for emergencies like a derecho or something else would happen in the future. So we can't put that at risk. The newest thing that I expect that we'll go to the legislature this year and ask them to give us some of their ARP money, and we'll give up some of our GRI money in the future, and that will help us speed up the process.
All right, Brad. Thank you, Tiffany.
13 years is not okay. You know, I talked about us being okay with okay and sort of letting things happen to us. You know, I had a chance to meet with Rob Davis, who's our flood guru. And if you haven't met Rob Davis, when you do meet him, pat him on the back, because this is an extremely creative person who takes his role in creating our flood protection very seriously. And so I said to Rob, really, is it 13 years? And we talked through a couple of things, and well, you know what, if we think about it, maybe it could be 7 or 8. And it dawned on me, I'm not sure anyone's even asked the question or said 13 years wasn't enough and looked critically at how we could make it happen. It was really kind of an exciting moment for me to know that just by being a rookie and being given permission to ask these kinds of questions, that we may have gotten a better answer. I'm a big believer in finding a way to yes. I was then able to be at the Northwest Neighborhood Association meeting when Rob was there and announced to them that they'd be speeding up their protection. It would take 2 or 3 years. So in fact, we are speeding up for protection on the west side, which is a priority for me. And I'm thrilled that we're going to be using some of our American Recovery Plan money for that as well.
All right, thank you. So we've gone over the allotted time that we told everybody that we would be here, but we're going to go to closing statements. And so each of you, the plan was to give a minute for each candidate. I'm going to give for Myra and Brad 15 additional seconds because we gave Tiffany and Amara an exchange that was unscripted. And so they have 15 extra seconds if they wish to use that. Myra, we'll begin with you.
Well, I wish I had my timer and my phone going, but listen, I truly think that I'm the best candidate here, and I think a lot of people are actually seeing it this time. I've tried to make changes in the past, and help people. And, it's no different when I ran for mayor last time. I'll never forget all the people that talked to me afterwards. And I'll never forget a one guy, Mike, he come and showed me some paperwork, what the city was doing to him. I said, Mike, that's why I keep trying to get in a position where I can help people like you. And he said, well, leave my paperwork where you look at it. I said, no, Mike, I won't. I said, I'm not mad at you, but I won't. There's nothing I can do for you. And I think people are finally starting to see it. Again, if I get elected, it's because the low and the middle class got up and decided to do something about it. And I get hit all the time. We need term limits. I tell people, we got them. Vote them out. Ben Franklin said, politicians are like underwear. Change them often. But we don't. We get the Grassleys that are in there forever that he should have been long ago. And I think that I'm going to be the one that's going to break that paradigm that we have of doing things the same way we've always done.
All right.
My time's up. Thanks.
Yep, time is up. All right, Brad.
Well, I'm asking for your vote to reelect me as mayor because I want to continue to serve Cedar Rapids and only Cedar Rapids. The mayor and council serve in a nonpartisan role. That means we don't run or serve as Democrats or Republicans, and that's what makes us effective. I'm really proud of the support that I've received from this community, and I have not sought or received money from any political party or from anyone representing interests or political parties outside of Cedar Rapids or Iowa. And really to show that broad local support, I plan to release my full list of donors tomorrow, well ahead of the October 28th deadline. It's important for Cedar Rapidians to know who's supporting each of our candidates. But really to switch off of that, this is a remarkable city. It's been an honor to serve as mayor. It's been difficult, a pandemic and a derecho. Nobody planned for that, but it's still been an honor to serve. And we've made a lot of great progress in so many ways, but there's always more to do. And we need to fully recover from the pandemic and the derecho. We can work together and make Cedar Rapids a better place to live, work, and play for everyone here. And I promise to work hard every day for each and every Cedar Rapidian. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Tiffany.
Mayor Hart, I appreciate that. And if you're willing to do that, I'll do the same. I can release my donors tomorrow as well. And I would challenge the other candidates to do that as well. I want to thank the Gazette for giving us this platform tonight. I want to thank my unconditional friends and family for being there for me since I have this public platform to thank them. This has been a process. Thank you. I never thought I'd be sitting here as a candidate for mayor, and I'm not a politician, have no desire to be one. I'm a person that believes in my city, and I want to do my part to make it a better place. And if you know me, you know I've been doing this unofficially for 20 years, and I'm ready to make it official. After the last 6 months, I've never been more in love with my town. I've met people from all walks of life in our great city. I hope they know that I see them. I've heard them, and I carry their hopes, their dreams, their expectations, which are big ones on this journey. So what a ride it's been. We have such an opportunity in front of us, my friends. If we are willing to take that step forward together, it's time for a new energy, a bold vision, and I call it a new season of leadership. I'm Tiffany O'Donnell, and I humbly ask for your vote coming up quickly on November 2nd.
All right, thank you, Tiffany. Amara.
Thank you so much. As I was saying earlier in my opening, my husband and I are not from Cedar Rapids. We have chosen to make this place our home. We are here to stay, and I believe that I have the leadership skills to take Cedar Rapids to the next level, moving in a forward and a progressive direction where we put our rich history, our diverse culture, where those are parts of the story that really can thrive. It's time for new leadership here in Cedar Rapids. It's time to move on from the status quo. And that's why I'm running for mayor. We need a mayor who understands the challenges and struggles of everyday working families. We need a mayor who puts the people and small businesses and workers first. That is why, as my opponents have mentioned, that I've been endorsed by labor unions and by the Emily's List and others, because I really want to put people first, and I hope to have your vote on November 2nd. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That concludes our event this evening. So on behalf of Todd, myself, the entire Gazette editorial board and team, we'd like to say thanks to our team for helping us with the support in making this happen. We'd like to thank the candidates for their time and for choosing to run. And most importantly, we'd also like to thank the viewers and those who have participated at that point. A replay will be made available on thegazette.com later tonight, and we encourage everyone to make their voice heard November 2nd, and if necessary, in a runoff election. Thank you to everyone, and good night.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.